Godzilla vs. Kong is what it is. NXT has officially moved to Tuesday nights, and the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Yeah, this is the Rantin Review Podcast. What are you sexy bitches? Welcome back to the Rantin Review Podcast here on whatever channel you're listening to. It could be iTunes, it could be Podbean, it could be Spotify, wherever it is. The Rantin Review Podcast is out there. Apparently, I'm very big in Germany and a couple of foreign countries, which is it's a top 10 rated podcast, which is I definitely appreciate it. For all you guys out there in Portugal and Germany listening to this, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I don't know what's going on with the U.S. audience in my home country, but apparently I'm big overseas. So there you go. Before we get into everything today, of course, I want to let you guys know that crypto is taking over the world eventually. Let's just be truthful and honest about it. Crypto, it's a big thing. So what I want you guys to do, if you want to get ahead of the curve on this, is to go and use my affiliate link that is either in the description of this podcast, wherever you found it, or you can go to my website, webchannel24.com, and look at pretty much any article on there, and you will find the affiliate link for BlockFi. Now, what BlockFi does is it holds your crypto, but what they do is they take your crypto and they take your money that you deposit in. You can deposit in cash, and you can divvy it up amongst all the crypto. Well, not all of them, but many different cryptos, including the big ones like Litecoin, like Ethereum, and of course, Bitcoin itself. The biggest thing about this, though, is that unlike just holding it in cold storage or something like that, or buying it off of Robinhood or Webull, which I wouldn't suggest you doing, if you buy it through BlockFi, you actually earn interest on it. And it's not small interest. It's not like what your usual national bank gives you, which is like 0.001% or something. It's not even what's considered these days a good interest rate would be considered with American Express, which is like a 0.5% interest. They give you 6% to 8.5% interest on your crypto. So theoretically, if you have $100 of Bitcoin, you can get $6 by just having it. And the more you have, obviously, the more you're going to get back. And that is like an insanely crazy, that is like early 2000s interest rate return. You don't get that anymore these days. So definitely go check out BlockFi and get the crypto that you need, the crypto that you deserve, by using my link in the description below or by going to my website, webchannel24.com. Now, moving on from that. So let's start with the entertainment news this week. I did watch Godzilla vs. Kong. That movie should have been about 45 minutes long. And the funny thing about it is, there's a YouTube reviewer, and you guys who watch YouTube movie reviewers will know who I'm talking about as soon as I say this, who tends to be, I would say, is probably the most pretentious of the major league YouTube movie reviewers, who I watched the review last night of them, I watched a video of them reviewing this last night, and they were going on about how people shouldn't try to look at this movie as anything more and try to be pretentious about the movie, and it's an examination of human behavior. And I was like, really? Wow, you of all people saying that? He's right to an extent. Do not go into Godzilla vs. Kong expecting anything of substance. This movie is about Godzilla fighting Kong. It's about two, in this case, CGI monsters recreating something that was made 60 years ago in Japan, using guys in suits on a cardboard set with buildings, much like we've seen with the Power Rangers and stuff that was made popular then in the States. But the old Godzilla movies were great. Godzilla vs. King Kong was campy, and this one was campy. It's not high art. That's definitely the case. However, there is a difference between being campy and just being uninspired. See, like, you can be campy and inspired and fun and just like wacky and just really do something crazy with it, which is what the old ones did. I mean, there was King Kong stuffing a tree down Godzilla's throat in the old one from 1962. But this one was just like your standard cookie cutter, early 2000s disaster film kind of thing where, you're really there to see the spectacle and the CGI. And then they throw in these uninteresting human stories because we have to have a human connection to it. So there's the one about the little girl who can communicate with Kong. Now that part I actually liked. But then there's the woman who, and I haven't followed the whole monster universe that they've been trying to build around this. So all the backstory just wasn't, I didn't get any of it. But apparently the woman who's doing this, she was related to the woman from the last Kong movie, which I did see years ago. I don't remember that much from it, because they're disposable movies. There's another guy who apparently was a brother of a character from a prior movie. There's another person who was apparently in the Godzilla movie, although I thought that was Bryan Cranston and Quicksilver, Aaron Taylor-Johnson. I don't know anymore. I can't follow this cinematic universe, and it's not worth being a cinematic universe because, as we pointed out, there's no substance to these films. If you're going to have a cinematic universe, there has to be some interest in the characters that carry across the movies. That doesn't apply to these movies. It's just, I mean, there was a conspiracy theory podcast guy on there who did the typical, again, this is all very early 2000s humor. Like, it's supposed to be ironic and everything. And I just found myself rolling my eyes half the time because I'm like, oh my God, because it's not even funny. I mean, one thing it was funny, it's just silly. Silly doesn't necessarily mean funny. But that's not what we're going to see this movie for. What we're here to see this movie for is to see Godzilla and King Kong fight, and that part of the movie is amazing. I think makes up probably about 45 minutes of the movie. This is whole other storyline about going to the Earth within the Earth, and Kong having an axe. That was I'm not even going to get it. It's a lot of just unnecessarily silly stuff. This movie should have been 45 minutes long. You could probably tack on a much better and more concise 45 additional minutes of the human story, so you have some sort of narrative to tie it all together. But this definitely should have been like an hour and a half movie, maybe even a 70-minute movie. And they used to do that back in the day. Speaking about how, these kind of throwaway movies, the action movies didn't have to have a deep meaning to them. They were just there for just be popcorn filler movies. But those movies were like 90 minutes long, 80 minutes long. They knew what they were. They were short and to the point. You didn't try to pad it out to be a 2-hour movie. This movie had no, I mean, it was the shortest of the monster movies so far, but it's still too long. But I would say go in and fast forward past all the scenes that don't have anything to do with Godzilla fighting King Kong or the special surprise. It's not really a surprise. Everybody kind of knows Mecha Godzilla's in this movie. That stuff is cool. Fast forward past everything else because it's just, you've seen it before. You've seen it done better before. It really is unnecessary. Or you could wait till somebody cuts all, and that somebody's going to do this. They cut together all the scenes of Godzilla and King Kong fighting and put it together and put it up on YouTube. Watch that. But this movie, if I had paid $15 for HBO Max to see this movie, I'd be kind of pissed off. And it probably is also better if you see it in the theater too, because this movie was definitely made to be seen in theaters. It's directed by Adam Wingard, who I followed his career because he wrote and directed a story in the ABC, not the ABC. Yeah, he did ABCs of Death. He did all those early 2010s horror films that were pretty cool, low budget ones. He did VHS 2, ABCs of Death. I think he did another one that he was involved with. He did the Blair Witch reboot. I've never been wild about Adam Wingard's movies. I don't think he's particularly a great director. And again, the movies that I just talked about, his segments of ABCs of Death and VHS 2 were kind of the weakest of those anthologies. And the Blair Witch reboot was cool, but it felt uninspired. It felt very pedestrian, kind of like this Godzilla movie. So that's that. On the other front, this is the last week of the extended episodes of The Walking Dead. Here's Negan is coming up this weekend. This is the one everybody's looking forward to because we get to see Lucille, the real Lucille. We get to see Negan's backstory, how he became how he became the guy that bashed Glenn's head in several years ago and made me a fan of The Walking Dead, but also turned off about 10 million other people from the show because that's when a lot of people start watching the show. But again, a lot of people, and I saw this on Twitter when I was talking about it. There's always these people to go. And I get, the people think they're so clever with this, and I'll bring this up too about the IWGP Championship thing later. But they always do this thing where, oh, people are still watching The Walking Dead. I was like, that's not. People have been saying that for 4 years now. You saying that is not some big ironic, ooh, I'm cool hip moment. It's about as annoying to people who do watch The Walking Dead as apparently The Walking Dead is to you, but you don't watch it. You probably never did anyway. So what does it matter? But it's just like somebody, but like, I like comments like that because people feel they have to go out of their way to say something like they're being hip or something. I don't know. Like they're cool by saying it, by trashing. It's like, no, it's no, no. So, as far as the series is concerned, I am going to between this time and from now until, the actual, season 11 starts, which is the final season of the show. I am going to go back and do a recap of all the first 10 seasons of The Walking Dead, since a lot of that stuff was on my old movie channel on YouTube, which is now gone, and all of those files are lost. So I am going to go season by season, leading up to the season 11 debut, just coming up this summer. Because again, and some of you already know this, I didn't start watching The Walking Dead till like 3 years ago. So I skipped, I avoided it when it was really, really popular and everybody was watching it. I picked up on it around the end of season 7, the beginning of season 8, and binge watched the first 7 seasons. And I was like, oh, I really do like this show. But I was like 7 years behind, obviously 7 years behind everybody else who had been watching it when it was hot back in the day. So I don't mind it. At this point too, I think that was a good thing for me too. That was because at this point I am ready for the series to be over. And the fact that season 11 is the last season, I'm fitting into the right timeline because I'm about ready for I'm like, all right, it's time to wrap this up. I enjoyed it, but let it end. So I think I came in at the right time to be a fan of The Walking Dead. But here's Negan is coming up this Sunday. I definitely will be doing a reaction video to it on my YouTube channel. So if you've enjoyed those reaction videos, thank you very much for watching them. The last one blew up kind of a little bit, so I'm happy that my YouTube channel now. I mean, I know a lot of the wrestling fans don't like that I don't pay attention to anything else I talk about besides wrestling. Some of them don't pay attention to anything I talk about besides New Japan. But it is nice to now see that there is starting to be an audience developing for the other 9,000 things in life that I'm interested in and talk about on the YouTube channel. So there's going to be a lot more of it too, because I did announce the other week that I will be doing a playthrough of Man of Medan, and I will be doing a playthrough when it comes out of the re-released version of Mass Effect for the current generation game console. So there will be gaming videos on the YouTube channel as well. Note about the YouTube channel too. I have, since I have relaunched my YouTube channel, which fortunately finally has gotten monetization back again, so thank God that happened. The Wrestling with Finance videos have now been moved to the Wrestling with Finance YouTube channel, so that's a separate channel now. And that's just basically so I can keep the search engine optimization right, because I can do entertainment tied in with wrestling, because wrestling is entertainment, and I can do movies and video games and stuff all in there. But a financial channel has no place being there, so that's why I split it off. But as far as the Rantin Review main YouTube channel, there is a schedule now for it. I went and spent last week and came up with a schedule, which so far, the first week into it, seems to be working. It seems to, and I needed it because I was getting very confused as to like, God, what am I doing? You know, I need to make another video here. I need to make another video there. So temporarily, for the time being, I think for the foreseeable future, or at least over the next month, this is going to be the schedule for my YouTube channels. So on Sundays, I will typically be having a Wrestling Rantin video, which will either be a review of the week's information, news, stuff, and just general information about wrestling. about pro wrestling, WWE, NXT, AEW, New Japan. Those will be on Sundays, unless there's a big pay-per-view that day, and then it'll typically be a review of a pay-per-view, or if there's a big pay-per-view that happened that weekend. Sometimes they'll be mashed in with the news segments. On Mondays, there will be the reaction video or an entertainment video. Right now, they're going to be the reaction videos to The Walking Dead. After this week coming up, there'll probably be recaps of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and maybe some retro. I haven't decided what. I'm going to do some retro Netflix stuff, because there's a lot of Netflix shows that I used to watch that I don't have reviews up from on a new channel, so I might be going back and doing some of those. So those will be on Mondays. Tuesdays, there will be on the Wrestling with Finance channel, there'll be a video. Wednesdays, I'm going to try to do the podcast either on Wednesdays and or Thursdays. Thursdays, we're going to have published either an AEW Dynamite review or another wrestling news video on Thursdays. Fridays will be another Wrestling with Finance video, and on Saturdays we'll have another entertainment video. So I'm trying to keep it to basically having something every single day. So just to recap, if you're into the pro wrestling stuff on my YouTube channel, Sundays and Thursdays are going to be the days that you're going to want to check out my YouTube channel. The Wrestling with Finance videos will be on Mondays and Fridays, or Tuesdays and Fridays, sorry. And my entertainment videos will be on Mondays and Saturdays, and the podcast will be on Wednesdays and or Thursdays. So that's the schedule I'm working with right now, to kind of have content every single day of the week for you guys. And hopefully, if you guys aren't into, because I know some people don't watch The Walking Dead, some people don't watch WandaVision, some people don't like video games, but if there's other stuff, hopefully there's something else that you guys like besides just watching wrestling. So if you guys have any suggestions about stuff that you also are into, that an entertainment space that you want me to cover, then I can look into see if that's something else that I'm interested in and start doing some reviews of those shows or those video games or whatever it is. Because again, the Rantin Review is not just a wrestling channel anymore. It's definitely going to become an entertainment channel, and that's just going to be the way it is. But pro wrestling, I have always considered it to be part of geek culture, so it is going to be, I'm doing a channel where that is on par, which it should be, with video games and comic books and movies and TV shows and other entertainment vehicles like that, because it's all geek culture, and might as well. I'll get into that at some point in time, why pro wrestling is it's part of geek culture, but geek culture kind of separates it from the rest of it, and pro wrestling community separates itself from geek culture for some reason. But we'll talk about that at some other time. Now, speaking of pro wrestling, getting into that this week, a couple big things that came up. The big thing is that NXT is even though we've known this for a while, I talked about this months ago, and I talked about it again last week, but it has been official now that WWE has acknowledged in its one of its most recent press releases for its WWE corporate, because I do follow the stock market, obviously, because I do Wrestling with Finance. But they released the other day that the NXT, the contract has been extended with the USA Network, so NXT will still be on the USA Network, but it will be, as we all expected, moving to Tuesdays, because NASCAR and hockey are going to be on the USA Network now. So those big days for those sports, which have a much bigger audience than WWE does, will be on Wednesdays. So NXT will be moved to Tuesdays, which is the best thing for everybody, because this Wednesday Night War thing just didn't work out the way we thought it was going to work out, especially when the pandemic happened. Then it was just completely done with. So you're just basically watching two studio wrestling shows at the same time. So the live, surprise aspect is not there. The going back and forth isn't there. And they've both shows have kind of not mentioned each other, for about a year now. I haven't heard one mention. There hasn't been any back and forth between the two shows. So it's not really a war. Plus, AEW clearly won the war as far as numbers are concerned. Now, speaking of numbers, this is a funny thing about it. So in the press release that WWE put out, they claimed that NXT on average on the Wednesday time slot was averaging 847,000 viewers. Now, I saw that number and immediately went, that's a lie. Because we all know, and we've been following the Wednesday Night Wars, even passively, or even if you just see Brian Alvarez's tweets every week, NXT's numbers have been 600,000, 700,000, and on a good week, maybe over 800,000 for the most of 2020. So when I saw that they said in 2020 that they were averaging 800, almost 850,000 viewers, I was like, that's bullshit. And I went and looked at I pulled it up, it's readily available online. And I pulled up all the weeks and added them all together, divided by 50, because they missed 2 weeks last year. The show didn't air 2 weeks last year. And the average came out to about 707,000 viewers. I was like, that's almost 150,000 viewers swing. What is going on here? Now, fortunately, other people told me Meltzer already talked about this. Some people talked about this. And then I went and did further research on it. And apparently what the WWE is including in that number is DVRs. And apparently DVR is a big thing because again, 707,000 to 847,000, that's almost 150,000 viewers who are DVRing it on average every single week. That's a lot of people, which also means for AEW, who are averaging 700, 800, 900,000 viewers every single week, 900 at the high end, that means if you count in DVR for them, and I did look this up as well, AEW's average audience is actually 1.2 million every single week, which is not that far behind WWE's SmackDown and Raw. Now, SmackDown a little bit bigger, but Raw, Raw just hit another low. They hit record lows every week. It doesn't even matter anymore. Raw is like 1.5, 1.6, 1.7 million viewers every single week. If you count in the DVRs, maybe it's closer to 1.8, 1.9 million viewers every week. But if AEW is averaging 1.2 million and Monday Night Raw is averaging 1.7, 1.8 million, I mean, is there really that big imagine back in the day in the Monday Night War, if, Raw got a 6.5 rating and Nitro got a 6.2 rating, or a 6.0 rating, would we be really going, WCW is so far behind WWE? No, it would be like, that's minuscule. And this is minuscule too. Now, comparatively speaking though, the percentage of the wrestling audience, it's bigger, but it's just as far as overall eyeballs on the shows, AEW ain't that far behind them. And I wonder, once the crowds come back, is this going to be a big thing? And plus now, since NXT is going to be on Tuesday nights, that means AEW's ratings are probably going to go up, and it means NXT ratings are going to go up. So we could see, and somebody predicted this a year and a half ago, and I thought they were crazy. I was like, I don't know if that's going to happen. But you could wind up with a situation within the next year, the AEW's ratings are competitive, like within 100,000 viewers of Monday Night Raw. Like, honestly speaking, if they continue to grow at the rate that they're growing, and Monday Night Raw continues to deteriorate at the rate it's deteriorating, within a year or so, AEW Dynamite's ratings will be comparable with Monday Night Raw's ratings. Let that sink in, because they're not that far away from each other now. So, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if WWE is going to regain its viewership when the pandemic is finally over and they are able to have live audiences again, because live audience is a big part of what makes WWE. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to get a bump. We'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks, but it's a subtle war, but it's a war that I think has got a lot more legs on it. And coming out of this pandemic, it's going to be a different landscape completely in the pro wrestling TV space. Speaking of which, also the end of this is that Impact is now moving to Thursdays, which I think is going to help Impact Wrestling's viewership increase a little bit, at least. So a lot of stuff changing over here in North America. Now, over in Japan, my favorite wrestling promotion, since there's somebody on YouTube who keeps asking me the same question every week, every video I put up, and even though I've answered this like 1,000 times, New Japan Pro Wrestling is my favorite wrestling company right now. Has been for about 5 or 6 years now again. So New Japan, although I think we're at the end of that golden era. I think the golden era from 2014, I actually consider that the golden era, the most recent golden era of New Japan was 2014 to 2019. I think that's when it was. I think it ended in 2019. But it's definitely over now for a lot of people, because Kota Ibushi and this whole merging the championship thing, merging the IC title, merging the IWGP Heavyweight Championship and IC titles together as the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. They finally unveiled the new championship. And I said to you guys before on this podcast and on YouTube that no matter what the design is, people are not going to like it. Even if it's a good design, people are not going to like it. Well, we didn't quite get a good design. The fried egg belts all of the, up until this point, all of the New Japan championships, if you looked at them all, the U.S. title, the Never Openweight championships, the Intercontinental Championship, the Heavyweight Championship, the Junior Heavyweight Championship, all except the Junior Tag titles, which still have like the old 90s oval championship look that New Japan's belts had back then. They all had that, what I call the scrambled egg design, as far as the shape of the main of the belts. And now they've gotten this kind of winged. They're kind of trying to incorporate the old Crown Championship with some of the old circular championship that they had way back in the 80s and the 90s, with a new age design for the 2020s. And this is going to be apparently the design style for the championship over the 2020s. Now, the picture that I saw online, I did not like. I don't think anybody liked it. I mean, some people did. Some people were okay with it. Some people thought it was cool. But a lot of comparisons were made. And again, this goes back to everybody trying to be clever with something that was said 5,000 times already. Everybody kept going, it looks like Cody Rhodes' tattoo, which was funny the first 30 times I saw people saying it. But when then like 1,000 other people just kept repeating it as if they had just come up with it. It's like, you didn't come up with that joke. Everybody's already said that all day. The same thing with calling it like the Divas Championship. I'm like, yes, I saw the 30,000 other people that said it looked like the Divas Championship. It's like, come on, guys, come up with your own shit. It's like, but yeah, it's the design is jarring. And again, it's so different from what the last belt was. And I hope that they were going to keep and just spruce up the design and keep it relatively the same, because the IWGP Heavyweight Championship from the last decade and a half, or I think it's about a decade that they've had that belt design, is a gorgeous belt. It is literally the gold standard of championship belts in the modern era. It is the best looking championship belt, which now, ironically enough, you got to give that over to AEW's World Championship now. Now, from a distance, it looks okay. And when Kota Ibushi was carrying it, I liked it. Looked better. I can't say that I like it. So what I'm going to do is give 6 months. I'm going to come back in 6 months, which that'll be September. So right after the G1, or around during the time of the G1 this year, I'm going to reassess my thoughts on the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship belt design. I don't think it's going to change too much, but it may grow on me. And the reason I say this is because I'm old enough to remember back in 1988, and I was 10 or 11 or 12 years old at the time. I remember when WWF came out with the winged championship, the Eagle Wing Championship belt that they debuted after Andre sort of kind of beat Hogan and then gave the belt to Ted DiBiase. So they had the new belt, the new championship belt made up. And Macho Man was officially the first champion that won the belt after winning the WrestleMania 4 tournament. And I remember at that time, me and my friends, who were back in that time in the 80s, like every kid watched wrestling, at least where I lived at. Like everybody in our school watched wrestling all the time, still by 1988. And nobody liked the Wing Championship. I remember some guy was like, it looks like a throwing star or something, or like somebody could get hurt wearing that thing because the wings were coming out. It's like, it's got to be sharp. I remember those jokes. We used to make those jokes about the Winged Championship. And now, here in 2021, the WWF Winged World Heavyweight Championship is probably the most iconic and the most beloved WWF Championship of all time. But at the time, we were making jokes about it. So I don't know. I think at some point in time, I don't know if this belt's going to grow on people. I think they might be better served to kind of go back and re-examine the design and kind of make it more of a championship instead of the winged thing. But New Japan also can be stubborn. Sometimes they listen to their fans and sometimes they're stubborn. And they can be stubborn and go, this is what we're doing and this is what we're going to do. And also, we're going to, by the way, change the never open weight titles to reflect this design scheme, and the tag team championships to reflect this design scheme. And the U.S. championship, I think they might not touch because I don't think they really care about it that much right now. It might have, the junior title might get the same design treatment as well. So I'd say hold your breath that maybe he might get tweaked. But as of right now, I think, they're just going to go with it and they're going to keep it. And again, I was not a big fan about merging the IC title with the World Heavyweight, with the Heavyweight Championship and making a World Heavyweight Championship, because I think you need a mid-card title. But if they're going to elevate the Never Openweight Championship with Tanahashi and now Jay White going after that title, if that title is going to be elevated to the secondary championship in the company, which I actually kind of like the idea, because the Never title, I like the idea of having a World Heavyweight Champion, a Junior Heavyweight Champion, and then a championship in between, which is the Never title that either Junior or Heavyweight could hold. So I think the Never title should get a redesign itself and officially become the secondary championship. But the belt's going to have to look better, because that Never Openweight Championship looks like a toy. It always has. So, yeah, I think we got some changes coming in for the championships with New Japan Pro Wrestling. I think I know a lot of people, myself included, are still uneasy about the IC title going away. But I think, again, like I just said, if the Never title gets elevated, then I think I'll be fine with it. And I also like the fact, too, that in the video package that they showed when they debuted the belt, that the video package that they're going to play now is going to include prior IC champions and prior IWGP heavyweight champions, and they're going to try to promote that as that is the lineage. Both of those titles are the lineage that go into this IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. And now I can kind of see what Ibushi was saying when he said that the lineage was not going to get lost. So I think that's pretty cool if they're going to do it that way. Now, coming up, Sakura Genesis is coming up this weekend, where Kota Ibushi is going to be defending against Will Ospreay. I did for my Patreons, I did a preview show the other week on the Patreon page. So if you're not one of my patrons, you can go on there, patreon.com/wrestlinrantin, RASSSLINRANTIN, and get my preview on that. But I will be doing a preview for WrestleMania, by the way, coming up next week on for patrons as well. Sakura Genesis, I don't like the undercard, but I am looking forward to to Roppongi 3K coming back and going up against Kanemaru and El Desperado for the junior tag titles. I think that'll be cool, and I am excited to see Ibushi versus Will Ospreay. But this is I don't know. This card is going to be completely, entirely based off of whether or not Ospreay and Ibushi is going to be a great match. And they're going to have to go balls to the wall to get this over, because the New Japan titles have the prestige that they have because of the matches that have been performed around those championships. And if you're going to have a new championship, which effectively this IWGP World Heavyweight Championship technically is a new title, you're going to have to give it and establish it with the same heritage and the same lineage and the same kind of match quality that we had out of the prior matches. Now, I don't doubt that they'll be able to do that, because New Japan, one of the things that hasn't soured with New Japan is their ability to have great in-ring performances. That's still New Japan. It has been, despite all the other changes that some have been good and some have been bad. When it comes down to it, and they have two athletes like a Kota Ibushi and a Will Ospreay in a match for a championship, it's going to be a damn good match. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And I'm also very much looking forward to, are we going to continue to elevate Desperado? I think they're going to. He's in a semi-main event again. Despy is getting a lot of shine this year. Are we going to see David Finlay? Is he going to be rising up in the ranks a little bit here? Are we going to get other guys rising up in the ranks? It's a lot, Sonata is still kind of not really there yet. So there's a lot that's going to have to change this year with New Japan. I'm going to be very curious to see coming up in the fall who's going to be in the G1, because this year is going to be very different. I have a feeling that there's going to be some big surprises for who gets announced to be in the G1 tournament this year. People that may have not been in there before, that we may not have expected to be in there, that are going to be in the G1. So I'm looking forward to that. Plus, we got these 2 big stadium shows coming up. We got the Wrestling Grand Slam, I think they're calling it, tour. There's one at the baseball stadium, the other one's in the Tokyo Dome. So we're getting 2 Tokyo Dome shows this year, which is unusual. But I'm getting a sense that Okada and Naito is going to be the main event of one of them. And poor Hiromu being injured is not going to be able to main event the Tokyo. I think they probably could have done the junior match main event in the Tokyo Dome this time if they had done it if Hiromu was healthy. But I guess they're going to miss out on that, and it's probably going to be Okada and Naito possibly. They're going to do it in the Tokyo Dome again. Remember, they said that earlier. They said that last year when Naito beat Okada, and he said, hey, let's do it again in the Tokyo Dome sometime. This is probably going to be the time they do it. Not a guarantee, but I'll be curious to see if they're going to do Okada and Naito for that Dome show, because that would sell some tickets. It's been about 1.5 years since we saw that match, so I think it's about time for them to bring that back and make it a number 1 contenders match for Ibushi's championship at the baseball stadium show. I could have that backwards, but I think those 2 shows are going to be tied together. Whoever wins in the main event of one show might be going for the championship at the other show, so we'll see what happens. Over in WWE proper, I gotta say, I'm not really pumped for WrestleMania this year. I have really not had much interest in what they've been doing. I'm going to try to watch Raw and SmackDown over the next week to get into it since WrestleMania is coming up. But everything I see, the reports I see from other YouTube channels and from WWE, when I check out WWE's YouTube channel to look at the clips to see if there's anything interesting going on, I ain't seeing much. There's a celebrity match with The Miz. The Edge and Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan thing seems to have cooled off a little bit. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, and I haven't heard anything about Lashley and Lesnar, so I don't know anything at all about what's going on with Bobby Lashley. I don't know. I don't know about WrestleMania this year. Plus, we got 2 nights of WrestleMania, and we have 2 nights of NXT TakeOver. So I guess they're making up for the fact that all the indie promotions can't, have their big events, and Ring of Honor can't have a big pay-per-view around WrestleMania weekend. So WWE's just like, all right, well, I guess we'll just do 2 nights of TakeOver then, since nobody else is doing anything. New Japan's not having a show, Ring of Honor's not having a show, Impact's not having a show WrestleMania weekend. So the entire week between Hall of Fame and NXT and the WrestleMania, it's going to be way too much WWE. I can already tell you guys I'm not going to watch the whole thing. So I'll do my best. If they do something interesting, I'll keep up with it. But I just do not see myself watching 6 days in a row of 3-4 hour WWE shows. It's going to be, NXT will probably be good, but the rest of it is going to be pretty hard to watch. So I'm going to have to get geared up for that and see how I'm going to cover it and what I'm going to do with it. But, that's that. So I want to know what you guys think about all this stuff. You can always let me know on social media if you follow me on Twitter, or if you contact me on the internets, on my mailing list or Patreon, wherever you are. I'm all over the place now. I'm going to be starting an Instagram page pretty soon for the Rant and Review. So I appreciate you guys checking out the channel and checking out the podcast. It's been pretty cool. We're getting into the spring months now. I'm very excited. There's some cool movies coming out this summer, which I'm looking forward to. Some cool TV shows coming out I'm looking forward to. We got new stuff from New Japan. NXT is going to be moving to Tuesday, so I'll actually be able to watch it uninterrupted again, which will be fun. So and Impact's going to be on Thursdays, and I might actually watch it now. So there may be some new stuff coming up on the channel and the podcast pretty soon as far as reviews. But until then, I will see you guys for the next Rant and Review podcast next week. And again, remember the schedule for my YouTube channel. I'm going to try to stick to it, at least for the next month. We'll see how it works out. Wrestling videos will be Sunday. Again, wrestling videos will be Sundays and Thursdays. Entertainment videos and reaction videos will be Mondays and Saturdays. And Wrestling with Finance videos will be on Tuesdays and Fridays, along with the podcast on a Wednesday or Thursday. So that is the schedule for the foreseeable future. Hopefully you guys enjoy all the comments, all the content, not comments. Hopefully you guys comment give me comments on the content. There you go. in whatever social media platform you can find. And I will see you guys pretty soon for more content here. Have a good day. Behave yourselves, but not too much.